Last Friday, we went live for 24 hours in aid of raising money for Isla Caton through the Bradley Lowry Foundation. We had some amazing guests on throughout the 24-hour live stream, and we absolutely smashed our goal that we set in raising money for Isla. Now, this interview specifically is for Dave Walker. You obviously know Dave from his radio shows with ex-West Ham employee. So if you do like this video, then don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And also do pay attention because the rest of the 24-hour live stream interviews will be on our channel being cut up this week by Charlie. Anyway, that's enough from me. Enjoy the video.
Dave, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. I'm very well. How are you doing, more to the point? 7 hours in.
I'm not even halfway yet. That's the worst thing. There's still quite a bit to do. But yeah, it's good.
I've just been clubbing with my 9-year-old up until about 20 minutes ago. So don't talk to me about tired. You know, I'm knackered. That girl's got me holding up cartwheels, handstands, throwing her around in the air, and fucking hell, man, do I feel old. But yeah. But to be fair, it doesn't compare to what you're doing, so I shouldn't moan.
Well, thank you for joining us. For those that don't know, Dave's currently on a family holiday in the middle of Turkey. Is it enjoyable? Nice break from all the podcast stuff and that?
Do you know what, mate? It's been absolutely fantastic. It's been brilliant. Everything I wanted it to be. Weather's been fantastic. You know, we've done all the bits and pieces outside the resort, etc. Although, and I will say although, the only negative so far is that I think I'm getting a bit of a reputation for being the Andy Carroll in the resort, because they do football here every day. And I played the first game on the first day, enjoyed that. Second day, kicked off at 5 o'clock, and no word of a lie, ball came to me on my left peg. First time outside of the left foot, right, I've put a through ball to my 12-year-old teammate, right, that Trevor Brooking would have been proud of. It was an absolute peach. But the second that ball left my foot, my quad's just gone. And I mean gone as well. I mean, I've had some pulls in my time in football, but this was fucking bad, right? So I really struggled genuinely to walk for 2 or 3 days after that. Then, and this is the fucked up thing, I'm resting my leg. And then 3 or 4 days after that, I said to the wife, you know what, I'm going to have a little go at water polo, because I enjoy that, you know, where you put the silly cap on and you get the basketball and you throw it in the little goal, etc. And this big fat fucking turkey goal, I tell you, I struggled to get it in with a tennis ball, let alone a basketball. Anyway, it's come over to me, talk about how's your luck, ball's come down, I've gone to catch it, and the ball's literally landed square on my fingers, right? Now, that's what they should look like. Have a look at these fucking bad boys on the middle. Can you see that on camera?
I don't even think I can do that.
Mate, that's what I'm up against. And you know what? No pain whatsoever. But look at the fucking state of that.
That's not healthy.
Mate, it's handy when you're walking along holding your phone, though. No chance of dropping it with them bad boys in place. But yeah, fucking hell, all sorts of trouble there. But other than that, brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, apart from coming back a cripple, can't complain too much. But what's it like having a break from sort of like West Ham social media? Now, we were just discussing, we were having to fill in time, myself, Gons and I, we were talking about any old subject that would come up, and people were saying, like, what's your second love? So I was saying, well, mine's music, and I actually quite like the end of the season because I can go to all my live music over the summer, and part of it is a break from West Ham social media, if you like, in general, and videos to an extent, if you can get a break away. You're getting 1 week off from the podcast and that's it, but is it lovely to have that sort of downtime?
Yeah, it is, basically, because you know, me and X spoke about having a break from the podcast in the summer, and I've got to be brutally honest, I absolutely adore the podcast. I love doing it every single week. I love how successful it's been. I look forward to doing it every Wednesday. But the idea of having the close season off really appealed to me. And I spoke to X about it, and I said, look, what we're going to do, we're going to have a little break. But understandably so, he said, well, we can't really, because it's my busiest time. You know, the transfer windows now and all the sort of, you know, the rumours and the gossip and the hype is at its absolute peak. So really, we've got to carry on. So, you know, this is a sort of little treat to ourselves this week away. It's just very, very non-West Ham related and takes us out the world of social media, which we love. But obviously it does become quite intense after a period of time without a break. So, yeah, no, I am enjoying it, I have to say. And, you know, you talk about your love outside of West Ham. Mine is very much my family, because I'm also a dad. And, you know, a husband. So it's been good quality time with those. So no, it's been nice, mate. I've enjoyed it.
We've got like a live chat at the minute. When you put your broken fingers up there, Ash says your missus will enjoy that.
Yeah. Do you know what? I made the same joke to my wife earlier on, actually. Didn't go down too well. Joke on me, not my fingers.
I think she was hoping you would go down quite well.
I've had too many rackies for that, mate. 17 years in a relationship, that's far too exciting for me.
Listen, I want to have a chat to you about your life in social media. I feel like of West Ham. A few years ago, you formed Sex, Drugs and Carl & Co. Why did you form Sex, Drugs and Carl & Co.? What is it? Because I never really heard of you until later on, because I am not on the platform it is currently on.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I had absolutely nothing to do with Twitter until about 18 months ago, personally. So what happened was, and it's a strange one, because also at the same time, whilst I was on Facebook on a personal level, I was never really involved in Facebook on a West Ham level. I joined a couple of groups and half-heartedly had a little look what people were saying, and something come up on my timeline, and it was about Sam Allardyce at the time. And pretty much everyone was fucking slating him on there. And something inside me just wanted to jump into the group momentarily and just, you know, back his corner, if you like. Because I always thought Sam, you know, listen, never played the most attractive football, but he'd done a job for West Ham. He did the job that he was employed to do, and I'll always be thankful to him for that. So I just felt like I owed it to him in a weird way. And, yeah, jumped into this argument that soon developed into something ridiculous. It got to a stage where the admins of this group, and I wish to God I could remember the name of the person that I had this argument with and the name of the group, because I'd happily name and shame. You know, it was a fucking right den of cunts they were, and him especially. And but I can't remember. And we had this conversation, and it was getting backwards and forwards. It was getting personal. It was getting threatening. It was just getting so ridiculously out of hand for a conversation around Sam Allardyce, you know, where it just literally ended up with me saying, do you know what, mate, fuck you, fuck your group. I'm going to create something that shits all over yours so that I don't have to listen to your opinions. I can give my own and then deal with people that have got half a brain cell sort of thing, you know. And I went away and just on a whim, on adrenaline, if you like, just thought, well, what can I do? What can I do something that's different? How can I sort of, I don't know, put us in front of anyone else? And sort of started thinking about names, something catchy, first and foremost, something catchy above anyone else, so it's a recognisable name or brand, if you like. So I thought of the play on words, Sex, Drugs and Carlton Cole, which is, you know, how it all started, really. And then I just felt that I wanted someone to run it with. So I called Kevin Slade up, who I went to school with, another lifelong West Ham fan. He got involved. And then we just wanted it to be more than a discussion group, really. We wanted it to be a page, and I suppose we both fancied ourselves as someone that was quite creative and someone that could, you know, put together some decent bits and pieces for the fanzine and, you know, I suppose introduce things like nostalgia, comedy, features, that kind of stuff. And I suppose an online version, if you like, of saying Over Land and Sea, for example, which was always going to be quite ambitious, but that's the kind of bar that we set. And that's what we did. And we was doing pretty well. We gained some followers very quickly. We was enjoying it, and we did what we set out to do. And then I think looking at it, the defining moment for us, where we started to get recognised by people, was we started to do very high-level interviews, video interviews with ex-players and celebrity fans, using very high-tech equipment. We wasn't in the interviews ourselves. The questions would come up as text questions, followed by their answers. And to this day, you know, I think it's a great bit of work. I think we've done 10 interviews. I think 11 with Kev's latest with Bill Gardner. And you look back on them now, and they were really, really, really good, enjoyable bits of content. So much so that other people started to recognise us and look at us and maybe have the odd interview with us. And one of those people was ex-WHU employee who was just about starting his way in the West Ham way world. He was already well established as ex, but he wanted to launch his own website that was going to be as competitive as possible. And he was looking for another arm of that website to include our interviews because he really liked them. So we met with him, really got on, and then we never looked back from there, really. And obviously I can go on to the West Ham way stuff a little bit later on or now if you wish. It's up to you. But that was pretty much how Sex, Drugs and Carlton Cole worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I first heard of you. I've seen those interviews on YouTube. I've seen them, but that's how I knew Sex, Drugs, and Cat and Cole because I'm not on Facebook, so I didn't know about the whole Facebook side of it. So I've seen the videos, and then I remember speaking to X about the West Ham website he was building and stuff, and he said, "Oh, these guys, these guys, these." Because I remember meeting you. It was late on in the last season, Upton Park, wasn't it? I met you
Yeah,
outside the ground. I think me and Gordon
remember?
met you. You were just coming towards the ground. I met you there, and then your podcast came with ex West Ham employee. How did that come about from your side of things? We've heard X's version earlier, but from you, how did it come about?
Yeah. So from my perspective, this was on the back of an already well-established relationship with X, because obviously I've met God knows how many people through West Ham, which I'm really thankful for, because unbelievably, for whatever reason, I didn't really have many West Ham mates. I had lots of mates, please believe me when I say that, but not many West Ham mates. When I was at school, it was always Arsenal or Tottenham, and then sort of in my working life, it was pretty much the same. So, since doing what I'm doing, I've met so many people and probably extended my family of West Ham mates by 500%. It's crazy. And X is one of them. And but it sort of went beyond that with me and X. We became sort of good friends, then very good friends, then besties, if you like. And we've got so much in common. We get on like house on fire, and we have the same ideas and ambitions as well. And just about the time we realised that, I think the producer of Phoenix FM approached X. So he had no idea who I was or Kev was. Probably had no interest either, to be honest with you. But conceptually, he wanted to use X somehow on his radio show because he knew it would pull listeners. And I think X was up for it. But X said, I'm happy to contribute, do my bit, do my section, and I think it can work, but I want someone to host it. And so he came to me. And unbelievably, looking back, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to commit myself to something every single week. I suppose looking back, I was just being a bit lazy, really. So he sort of bullied me into it. And I said, well, look, I'll do it every other week. And that's my final offer because I can't do it every single week. And lo and behold, he bullied me. And then, that was that. And then, we started doing it every week. And thank God I did, because it's the best thing I've ever done. And do you know what? If it would have gone on to have been successful as it has been, should I say, and I wouldn't have been involved, I'd have kicked myself. It'd have been a big regret because, it's just unbelievable, really, how big it's got.
Then quickly after the podcast, well, from my memory, it was reasonably quickly, the events came. How did they come about?
So these kind of ideas fell quite nicely into the West Ham Way brand that X was trying to build, but it soon became apparent that, I suppose, if you like, my contribution was showing some value towards X as well. So we had a good connection on a personal level, but a good connection on a business level as well. We had the podcast, my contribution to the website, the social media links. And then one day I was on the phone to Mark Wald, who's a good friend of mine, obviously ex-West Ham, famous 1986 season. We used to speak quite a lot, me and Mark, and obviously we still do. And I was in the garden one day and we was having a chat. And he said to me, do you know what, Dave? He said, I'd love to get back into hospitality at West Ham. He said, but it's so hard for me doing anything like that. He said, I know I'm good at it. He said, but ever since I went to prison and come out of prison, I've got this perception of me that's very negative. So he said, it's a challenge. He said, you know what? He said, Everton do something. He said, they literally have a venue, 10 tables of 10, and I think it's 30 quid a ticket, and then all the boys that run it go down to Morrison's, get shitloads of beers, place them on the tables, and every now and then they'll have an ex-player come in. And I thought about it, and I thought, fucking hell. And this was just at the time where West Ham left Upton Park to go to London Stadium. And I thought, you know what, there's got to be an opportunity there. But genuinely, hand on heart, it wasn't a money-making opportunity at the time. It was an opportunity to kind of put a plaster over a big wound for the fans leaving Upton Park. So we thought that we would find a venue, have a crack at it, use our marketing reach to bring people in, and conceptually, I suppose, take the seed that Waldy and Everton had planted and turn it into a beautiful flower by going to one of West Ham's most famous institutions, the East Ham Working Men's Club, and it just so happens to be in our spiritual home. Start the event, charge the sort of same amount of money, a bit cheaper back then, I think it was. And then just create a place for the old school working class West Ham fan that didn't really exist anymore, because at that time, people were going to Stratford, spending, £6 a pint, £7 a pint, 30, 40 quid on a round for their mates, when they can come and spend 25 quid, unlimited drink, meet your heroes, and be in a spit and sawdust in a very special place to West Ham fans. So we thought it was a no-brainer, really. And we got very excited about it. And the first one was amazing, Frank McAvenny. Second one was a fucking disaster, Stuart Slater. Nothing against Stuart Slater, it wasn't his fault. But I think there were 35 people that turned up for that, and it was like fucking tumbleweed. But then, from there on, it just grew and grew and grew. And, our aim and our ambition now is to make it an institution at West Ham, because it's arguably our proudest achievement. And we love doing them. People love coming to them. And I think now it's coming up to the 3-year mark since we started it. I think we've done close to 40 events now. And they're brilliant. I love them. I know I'm biased, but I think they're great. And again, that's another avenue of what falls under the West Ham Way brand, if you like, to sit along the podcast. So, yeah, two decent achievements on our part, I think.
When you were doing your events, you obviously had that big change where you lost your venue, essentially. Working Man's Club was sold, etc. Was that a big worry for you, having to move from what was a comfortable venue for yourself, if you like?
Yeah, it was. It was a concern, because we didn't have the challenge of finding somewhere that was spatially adequate or acoustically adequate. We had the challenge of finding someone that was nostalgically adequate, if you like. And that was a big part of the day. People would come out of their way to go to Upton Park to be in Upton Park again. And I think that was the real big draw. So it wasn't just the players, that was part of the package. And truth be told, if the East Ham Working Man's Club was still going, would still be there now. But they shut their doors, like many others have done in that area. So we had to leave. So, we had to look at somewhere that was as close to that experience as possible. And, I think we've ticked a lot of those boxes. The problem that you've got is you can't replace something that's irreplaceable. So it was always going to be difficult for us. And we looked at different places. There were some working man's clubs in the East End that were potentially great, but no one would fucking know where they are or what they are or how to get to them. So we had to think of somewhere that was good location-wise, and maybe even a name that was recognisable to help people find it. So O'Neill's ticked that box. It's great, in terms of people getting to it from motorways and A roads, etc. If you're driving, it's 2 stops from Stratford, which obviously, is the ground, and that's nice and easy for people to get to. And it's not a spit and sawdust. It's quite nice, shiny, commercial, if you like. It's got fantastic acoustic set up in there. It's got a nice projector screen. Everything's quite fancy, if you like. So it's taken that little bit of magic out of it. But essentially and conceptually, what we've always offered is still in place. And we've had some fantastic times at this season, don't get me wrong. But, yeah, we're working on it. There's areas to improve on, but we still enjoy doing what we do.
Are you still, is Sex, Drugs, Cat and Co still yours? Is it Holy Kev's now, or what's the situation there? Because you're obviously sort of 1 foot in one and 1 foot in the West Ham Way now.
Yeah, so I was always predominantly Sex, Drugs and Carlton Cole, and that was always my baby, if you like. And it was interesting because when, how can I put this? It got to a stage where the West Ham Way podcast was very well established and was doing very well. And mine and X's relationship was obviously blossoming, and we had business interests at heart as well in terms of the West Ham Way event. So we were becoming more and more entrenched with each other. That was taking more and more of each other's time, just organically, not purposely, but organically. I was getting pulled into more and more with what X was doing. And I wasn't neglecting Sex, Drugs and Carlton Cole, but I was kind of going from managing the page from 5 days a week to calling in more and more favours from Kev to look after it on a Tuesday or a Thursday or a Friday or whenever it was. And then, with the show, it kind of reached a point where, and again, it was accidental, really. Me and X wanted to kind of go a certain way with the podcast. and Kev wanted to go a certain way and concentrate his energies into the fanzine. And without kind of going into specific details and boring you, it kind of, again, accidentally fell into place where it suited all parties for me to say to Kev, well, look, if you've got this kind of creativity within you that you want to take my baby away from me, I'm happy to give it to you because I'm sure it's in safe hands. And that can be your absolute sole focus and you can do whatever you want to do with it. And that will then free me up to give 100% of my time to the West Ham way. And that was agreed by everyone, and that's where we are today, basically.
We'll get questions from the live chat in a second because there's a few coming in for you. What's the aim for the West Ham way now for you?
Well, the West Ham way, I mean, in terms of the aim, it's difficult because we've both got full-time jobs. You know, if we was doing the West Ham thing all the time, every day, all week, all month, all year, you know, I'm sure we could achieve a lot more. You know, there's things like merchandise. There's quite a few different ideas that we thought of that we just don't have the time to implement now. So we're very proud of the podcast. That's going very well. Very proud of the events. That's going very well. So we're looking to do as much as we possibly can to I suppose, give service to West Ham fans that want to listen to us or want to be with us or want to kind of jump on the back of what we believe are good ideas and maybe, you know, gives them a kind of channel into either meeting their heroes or listening to their heroes. So we kind of ticks a lot of boxes in that respect. But yeah, I suppose, you know, like anything, you know, you do it for the fans, but it's nice to be recognised as one of the best for achieving that. Now, where it takes us moving forward in the future, I don't know. But where we are now, we're comfortable with in terms of having to balance that with everyday life, you know, until the day comes where we don't have to and we can concentrate on West Ham full time.
Fantastic. Right, some questions from the live chat, then me and you'll have a little discussion ourselves again. Ash is asking who your favourite West Ham player is that you've seen live and all time, if they're different.
Well, I would have to go with players that I've seen live. I mean, my answer, if I haven't seen them live, would either be Bobby Moore or Billy Bonds. But definitely, and I get asked this question quite a bit, and I always find it hard to separate them. I've literally got two front runners for me for very different reasons. So I don't know if he'd accept the answer of two players. And I'm going to, very rarely for me do I sit on the fence, but I might have to on this one. And that is Julian Dixon, Paolo Di Canio. They're my two ultimate heroes for me. I love the bones for both of them. Did then and do now.
I don't know how you pronounce this person's name. They're Welsh anyway. Is it Ion? I-O-A-N. How do you pronounce that? Ion? Eon?
I-O-A-N. It's not like an Irish way of pronouncing Ian, is it?
I don't know.
We're getting above my station now, I don't know.
Let's just call him Ian. Ian's asking, what is life like after you had a Kane video?
Well, do you know what? That was a funny one, that, because, you know, obviously after the Tottenham game, I went home, X drove, and he dropped me off. And the first thing I done when I ran into the house was play the game, because I've recorded it and I wanted to enjoy it again. And I was absolutely buzzing after that game. And it was just one of the things on a win that I did. And I wasn't too sure whether to tweet. It was only a bit harmless fun. And I wasn't too sure whether to do it because, you know, I don't know if it'd offend people. You know what people are like these days? You're a nightmare, aren't they? You can't do anything or say anything. But I thought, oh, bollocks, I'll tweet it. And I did. And I just couldn't believe it. You know, it was one of them, like, surreal moments. You never could have called it. Like, you see the likes going up and up and up and up and up. It was no breaking it, just up and up and up. And that was never my intention, gospel truth. And I remember texting X, I said to him, fucking hell, you seen this Harry Kane video? I said, it's going right off. And he said, mate, I can't believe it. I said, in about an hour, it's had like 5,000 likes or something like that. And then obviously, you know, within 24 hours or maybe even 48 hours, I don't know, it hit over 1 million views. And then, of course, the trouble is, whilst probably 85 to 90% of people liked it and laughed at it, you get fucking 10%. You know, they want to give you shit. And the trouble is, when you get that level of exposure, you put yourself on offer, don't you? So there's a lot of Tottenham fans that weren't happy about it. But at the end of the day, you know, if I can make West Ham fans laugh and get under the skin of Tottenham fans at the same time, I'll take that all day long. But no, it was a surreal few days.
Win-win.
And it even carries on into recent times as well, because I'm having some work done on my house at the moment. And fucking blow me down, every single tradesman is a Tottenham fan. And 50% of them recognised me from that Harry Kane video as soon as they walked in. So God knows the state of my fucking house whilst I've been away.
You're risking it there, I think. Ash is asking, he's asked everyone this, so don't worry about it. A shepherd's pie or cottage pie?
Well, I'm going to go with shepherd's pie. Do you know what, actually? I was going to say I'm going to go with shepherd's pie because I don't know what cottage pie is. But is the difference, actually, thinking about it, the difference in meat is one lamb and one beef? Is that right?
Yeah.
And what's what?
Shepherd's pie is lamb. Gonzo explained it. Makes sense, doesn't it? Shepherds and sheep and all that, so...
Yeah, I would say shepherd's pie. And I absolutely love shepherd's pie. Mrs. Walker makes a fucking blinding shepherd's pie, so I'm going to go with that. I've got a good question for you, actually, whilst we're on the subject of food. And anyone watching this can feel free to answer this as well, because I personally, for one, think this is a fucking great question. Maybe it's just me, but I'd love to hear your answer on this. You ready for it?
Yeah, quite. Well, let's move on to the questions first. We've got Michael.
You wasn't as excited and as enthusiastic about that as I thought you would be. But yeah, go on, go through the questions. It's fine.
Michael Cottrell says, your best goal you've ever seen live?
Di Canio's volley against Wimbledon. How can you top that?
Andy Walsh says, what's the best event guest you've had? You've had quite a few. Are you able to pick one out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There have been so many good ones for different reasons. Do you know what? I could bore you with a very, very long answer to that question and give you 6 different names as to why they're all fantastic for different reasons, etc., etc. But I am just going to cut to chase, and I think Alvin Martin for me, purely because that day, and if you haven't seen Alvin, he's like a stand-up comedian. You know, he'll answer questions, but he'll also take the event over and he'll tell jokes and anecdotes, and he'll just leave people creasing up. And I thought he was brilliant, Alvin. But there are so many. To be fair, tough question.
Right, there was a good question there. I've just missed it. Just give me one sec. Mark Parrish, have you said or done anything on air that you later regret?
No, I don't think so. And do you know what? Interestingly and ironically, and I didn't regret saying it, but there's one thing that I said that I think people would have expected me to regret, and I never did, was on this channel. And you probably know what I'm going to say as well, Gio.
Yeah, you're going to say about when you wanted to lose a game because of Bilic as the manager, etc.
Yeah, I mean that I got a lot of stick for that, But I stood by it, and do you know what? We ain't done bad since, have we? So yeah, I mean, so my answer is no, I haven't, because at the end of the day, I talk my art on my sleeve, and what I say is what I say, and I always talk with with a genuine opinion. It's never agenda-led, and I say it how it is, and I was doing no different that day. But that was probably the closest to potentially regretting something that I've come to. But no, not really.
Ryan Archer says, who would your dream guest for a match day event be? And he says, P.S. Keep up the good work.
Top man, Ryan. Yeah, he's a top fella. You had him on earlier, didn't you, Ryan?
Yeah, he was on earlier.
Yeah, there's 2 for me. Billy Bonds, because incredibly, he's a man I've never met. And he's Billy Bonds. What more can you say about that? And Paolo Di Canio. I know he done an event in London recently. I'd love him to do an event for us. Speaking honestly, probably too expensive for us, even though we would push the boat out as much as we possibly could to get him. I've got his home number. I've rang it plenty of times. It always goes through to an Italian voicemail, so I am trying. But yeah, those are the 2 without a doubt.
Keep trying. You'll get him one day. Last question from the live chat, then we'll have our chat, is Andrew Phipps says, does Dave call X outside of the radio show just for, ease?
Do you know what? It's so funny he asked that question because, yes, I do. When I started the radio show, I was so paranoid about calling him by his first name because I know how paranoid he is about his identity, that I'd always made a point of calling him X. Always. And, you know, outside the show, on socials, always.
The amount of people that's not going to be sure if you're telling the truth or not. Like we've got just give me 1 second. It's okay. I'll get Charlie to look into it. Charlie will be watching this. Charlie, something just came up on my screen about saying the stream ending soon, but I don't know if it said 30 seconds or 30 minutes. Can you quickly look? Thank you. Long story short, we're doing it on Google Hangouts. You can only broadcast for a certain period of time, so we can't do the whole 24 hours in one video, so we've got to cut it up into 3. So after we were going to be ending the broadcast and starting a new one, and doing 3 different separate videos. So I'm unsure if it's what you said there. I didn't quite catch us off. Charlie. To be fair, we'll find out in about 15 seconds. It's either going to cut us off or we're going to be going anyway. But one of the two things anyway. But Dave, let's talk about yourselves. Now, there's been a few people that's on social media have said, oh, it'd be interesting for myself and you to have a discussion. The problem is, we sort of agree this season, so the debate's not really there to be had. But prior, in seasons gone past, I suppose Bilic and the board with the 2 topics that people would have said, well, you're different, if you like, on each and stuff. Did you?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were a bit different because you've always defended the board. I've been quite critical of them. Then you were critical of Slav, and I've always defended Slav. But this season we're quite similar. Pellegrini's doing an okay to good job. Defense is doing okay to good. Midfield's doing good. Attack's done not great, but it's all right. So this season it's not so fun. But the season before last, when the March and stuff was happening, if you like, and the board were at their lowest in terms of fan popularity, and you stuck by them, was it difficult to defend the board back then?
Yeah, it was quite difficult. I'll tell you what, the only thing that was difficult about it, and I do mean the only thing that was difficult about it, is that when I was giving my opinions, it was the only reason they were being questioned was because they thought that there was an agenda behind it. They felt that, you know, I was doing it for reasons that, you know, I was getting paid or I've got loyalties in place or friendships in place, and my opinions weren't my own, which was a load of bollocks, you know, always has been. And you know, I am who I am, and I'll always, I'll never ever sit on the fence. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think the podcast has been as successful as it has been, because me and X, you know, we could play it safe. We could say what people want to hear. We could just get people on side constantly, but you know, we don't. We have a lot of people on side, but then there's a lot of people that don't necessarily agree with me or agree with X, etc., because we do just tell it how it is. And genuinely speaking, at that time, I just decided to show a little bit of loyalty towards them. Now, I can understand why they aren't the most likable people. You know, I understand that. From a personal level, the perception they give to the everyday fan probably isn't a great one. And that's why their PR is so poor as well. But for me, I don't know. There's a lot of good things they've done for this football club that selectively gets overlooked by fans, in my opinion. And I don't like that. I think credit where credit's due. I'm also the first to put my hands up and put it out there where they've gone wrong. But again, the same people that want to dig me out for, you know, sticking up for them also selectively choose to overlook when I'm saying, well, hang on, I actually agree with that. You know, that is wrong. Or they shouldn't be doing this, or they could be doing this better. So are they perfect? No, they're a million miles from perfect, and I'm pretty sure they'll even admit that themselves. But are they, you know, nightmare owners for West Ham United? No, of course they're not. Not at all. Not at all. And do you know what? I think they're doing a good job. If you was to ask me, are they the owners that are going to break us into the top 4? No, I don't think they are. But are they the owners that are going to have us knocking on the door of a top 6 place that is going to get us European football? Yes, because we're a gnat's cock away from it anyway. And we actually, you know, 2 years ago, we were the gnat's cock away from Champions League football. So it ain't been that fucking bad under their ownership. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just wondering how difficult you find it. Is it more difficult because you know them personally? I think I once heard, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I once heard you say something like, you spoke to David Sullivan and he sort of told you what he wanted to do and you believed him. But the difference between you and 99% of fans is 99% of fans haven't been able to speak to David Sullivan face to face and look him in the face or whatever like you have. So is that why there's possibly a difference of opinion?
Yeah, I think that's really key, actually. You know, I know Jack very well. I mean, previously, when I've done this sort of thing, or even on the podcast, I've been a sort of little bit shady about the specific relationships I've got. But, you know, as it's you, and, you know, fuck it, I'm a few beers down. I've already slipped up a couple of times tonight. Let's just enjoy ourselves. You know, I do know Jack Sullivan very well. I do class him as a very good friend. And, you know, there's certain, I suppose, occasions where we've been in each other's company and you know, I've been in the company subsequently of his dad. And, you know, there's been times when I've spoken to him about it, and it was during dark times as well at West Ham. And, you know, he didn't have to come down and talk to me, but he knew I was, I don't think he knew who I was at the time and what I did with West Ham, but he knew I was a West Ham fan. So he took the time to come and talk to me about it. And it was, you know, I remember this one specific night, he's, I don't know, it just felt like he was overdoing it, if anything. He spent such a long time going out of his way to talk to me about how much he genuinely loved the club. And this was a man who wasn't trying to get inside my head or manipulate me because of my social media power that he did or didn't think I had. I don't think he knew anything about my involvement with social media or West Ham or anything like that. He just thought I was a West Ham fan who knew Jack. And he just went on, you know, I don't want to say the specifics of what he said, because I think even to this day, he'd be held accountable for it. But he did go on to say about the ambitions that he's got, you know, the money that he feels he needs to spend, the players at the club at the time that he didn't think had a future at West Ham and why, the players that he had at the club that did have a future and why, who he was looking to bring in, where he wants to be, etc. And, you know, I looked him in the eyes when he said that, and I genuinely believed him. And I'm not being funny, I'm no mug, do you know what I mean? I don't get, you know, sold by any Tom, Dick and Harry. I have my own opinions based on people that I, you know, I take as I find, and I genuinely believed it. And I think, yeah, I think that's very fair to say. I think that probably would have been fueling a lot of my opinions and loyalty, if you like, back in the ball at what was a difficult time for West Ham. And dare I say that, you know, the summer just gone, the black clouds have parted, and we had a decent time under the owners. And we've appointed a top-class manager. The squad is looking very healthy. We're paying very healthy wages. We've paid very healthy transfer fees. And we've got a good squad of players there that, in my opinion, is the 7th best side in the Premier League on paper, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with the best 11. I seen your tweet and I replied to that about it. I said I disagree with the best 11. I think Leicester and Everton, maybe Wolves have a better starting 11, but I think we've got the better squad out of them all. Our bench is better than their benches. If you put everyone's best 11 out and had a look at who was left, I think ours would trump all the other clubs, etc. Because I just wondered about the personal thing, because I'm the same with Jack, actually, because I like Jack a lot. Got a lot of time and respect for Jack as well. And like, I'll always stick up for him if someone criticises his involvement with the women's team. I'll say, well, no, I think he's done a really good job, actually, and I do think that. But that's where I wondered if you were sort of in a difficult position, that you've been able to speak to David Sullivan, whereas nobody else has. So, and I'm the same now. One of my friends was to say, "Oh, that I don't really like Jack Sullivan's job or whatever." I say, "Well, hang on, you know, I've spoken to him. He's good at what he does. He's got the best interests at heart." So I could kind of see both sides of it from where you are, if you like. Do you not think, though, the £100 million spend last summer came from a lot of the aggro a few months previous at the Burnley game in particular, but events surrounding that as well, or do you think it was always going to happen?
Well, listen, I'm not being funny. You know, these are the owners that we've got in place. Love them or hate them. You know, they've done very well for themselves in life, working very, very hard, making shrewd investments, being very thick-skinned, very tough. They're not going to get bullied by a man fucking running into the centre circle, planting a flag and taking a few coins above their head against Burnley. That's not going to fucking make them suddenly spend 100-odd million. That's what the fans would like to believe, because it gives them a sense of empowerment, I think. But again, I go back to what I was saying previously. their level of spend is what I'm, not to the penny, but is what I knew they would spend anyway based on conversations I would had. So that was always the plan, always the plan. So whilst a lot of fans would like to think it's fight the power and it's fucking cool to be anti-establishment, whether that would have happened on that day or not, this money still would have got spent, and you either believe that or you don't. But I'm telling you, that would have been the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think it had an impact. I'm not saying that's why we spent 100 million. We would have spent some money that summer, obviously. And I think the other part, I think there was two other parts to it. One was the caliber of manager we finally had in place at that time, because while I don't think not backing Slav was correct, when he did get backed, he didn't spend it wisely, because I could understand why the owners were a bit reserved about handing him £50 million to spend on a couple of players. And the other thing is, I think we had our sort of an economically clever transfer window for 4 transfer windows previous to that. We sold Ayew for big money. I know we spent big money on, but we've sort of collected the money, if you like, then we spurged it all at once. But this summer we've only got 30 million apparently. I mean, believe it or not, I'm quite content with that compared to years gone by, because I think the 100 million's put the solid foundations in place, if you like. Now, I don't think, like a year ago, we went into the summer transfer window and everybody's saying we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that, or we're going to be in a relegation battle. I think we could probably buy nobody and we would still finish 10th at least in the season. So I don't think we need loads done. But is that now sort of like the big difference at West Ham? Is it the manager to you? Is he a key factor in the owner's spend and the owner's trust, etc.?
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, I think, what the owners and West Ham in general are trying to do now is just to enforce some stability for a change. Since we left the bowling ground, it's been so unstable, and it's been a pretty horrible time, really, to be honest with you. The first 2 seasons at West Ham were fucking awful, and everything fell apart. And I think we are trying to put some stability in place. Obviously, when Moyes replaced Bilic, he was only ever short term, really, unless he achieved something phenomenal, which he didn't. So in Pellegrini, it's always been, booked as a 3-year project, if you like. And I think there's a strategy in place now to go out and sign, ideally, not set in stone, but ideally go out and sign young, hungry players that have a future at West Ham rather than journeymen. So I think that, there are, I suppose, signs and strategies in place to, I suppose, build for the future with West Ham, rather than sort of, go season by season and just hope we pull off something special on a whim. But yeah, no, I think it's, I think we're going in the right direction. I do think we're going in the right direction. And I think if you look at I don't know, I think with West Ham fans, every single transfer window, I'm not saying all West Ham fans are like this, but I think there are definitely a big chunk that are more obsessed with how much we spend rather than how we spend it. And, we shouldn't be like that, because, my argument is, especially if you look from the halfway line upwards, we've got Mark Noble, who I know you're a massive fan of, Gio, Declan Rice, who's fucking Declan Rice, Philippe Anderson, our marquee signing, Lanzini, who can do no wrong in West Ham fans' eyes, Mikel Antonio, or Yarmolenko, brilliant. Marko Arnautovic, if he wants to play for West Ham and wants to make an effort, brilliant. So straight away, without even looking at the defence, where do you go and spend big money to replace any of those players? Who do you go? First and foremost, West Ham ain't playing in Europe, so you're not going to attract a top name that isn't going to want to play European football. So then you have to attract a player who is going to be happy to come in and compete against those names. And I don't know where they're potentially going to play. I mean, competition is great for the squad, don't get me wrong. But are you going to have a top-class player come in? And by top class, I mean within our means. We're not a Champions League side. We're not a Europa League side. A top player within our means to come in and take the place of one of those players. Because I think the biggest problem with West Ham last season wasn't quality, it was inconsistency. And that's why I personally come back to, and this is where me and you differ, I think we are the 7th best club in that division on paper. Because we can beat anyone in that division. We proved it when we want to turn up. We have to massively up our game against clubs outside the top 6, which we struggled with because, for whatever reason, we didn't want to show up against those sides. You know, and I think we are. So where does the investment come from? And then you potentially look at, I mean, again, you go from the back now. Fabianski, our hammer of the year, superb. Diop could be one of the best centre-halves in the Premier League, in my opinion, given time. Balbuena, massively, massively, massively underrated and overlooked because of his price tag, in my opinion, was brilliant. Not only was he arguably the most consistent player West Ham had last season, and by that I mean he didn't deliver 5 and 6s, didn't deliver 9s and 10s, was consistently delivering 7 and 8s for West Ham, and also brought out the best in Diop, I might add. 2 brilliant signings there. They're centre-halves, great. Ryan Fredericks, what an end to the season that boy had. I mean, he could be one hell of a player, Ryan. So does that now mean after Zaba signing an extension, we don't need a right back? Then you look at the left back area. Arthur Masuaku, I think second to Balbuena, even above Balbuena, is the most underrated player we've got, but underrated going forward. Defensively, there's question marks. Going forward, I think he's a great player, and I would be gutted to lose him. So maybe we look at a left back, and Masuaku is a substitute for Philippe Anderson if he gets injured or suspended. And then we go into the final third, which we've already covered, and that looks strong. You know, any defence, I think, would be petrified of those players on their day. So actually, when fans are demanding that we spend 100 million, 150 million to keep up with the likes of fucking Wolves, Everton, Watford, well, I think we're already there. I mean, where are you going to spend that £100 million? And if you spend it, who are those players going to come in and replace?
Yeah, just to counteract your argument for argument's sake, this is not necessarily what I believe, but I guess the argument is if you are going to upgrade one of those players and get a better one in, it's going to cost a lot of money to do it. And that's why they're saying with 30, I suppose some people are saying with 30 million, you're going to struggle, aren't you? You're going to struggle to bring in a player better than, you know, Anderson, for example. You just can't do it. Anderson was 40 million, for an example. So in order to upgrade those players you mentioned, I mean, I'm not big a fan as the fullbacks. I know you don't like Masuaku as a left back. You prefer to see him as a winger.
Yeah.
I don't think our fullbacks worry me. I do think I think you'll be sitting in your podcast October time saying to X, I think we need a new right back in the summer. I'm still not convinced by Ryan Fredericks. I think Zabaleta worries me a little bit. So the fullbacks concern me. Just to argue your next bet, now while I agree with it, the reason I think a lot of fans go on about it, or certainly why we've gone on about it in the past, is because the board, and I say the board because I include Karen Brady in this, despite she says she's going to undo transfers, she often refers to how much they spend in her Sun column usually. I think it's when the board mention how much they spend, and it can sometimes be inaccurate, if you like. And I think that's why, or when, fans pick up on it, or certainly from my point of view. I just think they've done a lot better this time to be quiet about it. I could be wrong, but it feels like less people are going on about it this year. Certainly when the 30 million first came out, there's a big uproar about it, but I think it's died down recently, and I think people are chilled out going into this summer. It's certainly been one of the most calmest ends to a season I've known for a few years now, heading into the summer transfer window. Everybody seems relatively calm, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if you're picking it up differently, but I think, especially compared to 12 months ago or 24 months ago, when everyone was a bit hysterical, you know, get the checkbook out. But for me, it's usually Karen Brady, actually, when it comes to spending money. It's usually her in her Sun column that says, we've spent this much money. And it's usually wrong. And that's when it gets my back up about next bet. Because I think in an ideal world, people don't like me saying this, but I almost think we need to be a selling club for a little bit, where you bring in young talent, give them a year or two, show them off the road, if you like, then you sell them for 3-4 times as much you bought them, and then you use that money to go out and reinvest in the next batch of young talent. So you look at Spurs in Champions League, and your workers at your house will tell you right now, they didn't buy Christian Eriksen, the fully ready Christian Eriksen. They bought him young, got him in, and nurtured him into the talent he is today, if you like. And I think that's what I'd like to see West Ham do more. And I do think at some point we're going to have to gamble and sell one of our players. Now, it'll probably be Declan Rice against our own will and wishes, because I know you think the same. He will do better than West Ham. He will move on from West Ham in the future. And it's about what we do with that money. Now, I would have no concerns if we came out that transfer window with a net spend of £0, providing we replace Declan with what Pellegrini thinks is adequate, and we use the money to upgrade one other position in the squad, ideally. And then if Pellegrini gets it right, I mean, this is why you've got a director of football, surely. This is why Huselos is there in order to sort of find the Balbuenas, find even Diop. I said Diop was a bargain. Someone said it cost 20 million. I said, yeah, but that's still a bargain. Say it's cheap. That's a completely different argument altogether. I said he's a bargain because I think he's worth twice that already. He's had one season here, he's worth 40 million in my opinion. I said Balbuena's worth over 20 million now. We're signing him for 4. But I do think West Ham are at the stage where we need to be very business savvy, and I don't mean just buying players. I mean selling players as well. Because I couldn't tell you the last time, apart from Payet, I couldn't tell you the last time a player left against our will. And I think you have to go back to Upton Park, in all honesty, to pick out the name. But I think, Dave, that we need to, eventually we're going to have to sell one of our top players in order to fund the rest of the transition, if you like. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Everton have done it with Lukaku in recent years and stuff. And it's just the pecking order of the Premier League, if you like, that we are one of those clubs. I mean, do you genuinely think we can challenge for the top 6 next season? Is it realistic? Or is it sort of like as long as we challenge for 7th in a cup?
Yeah, you've raised a couple of points there that's interesting talking points, because of the first one is Karen Brady, and there's no question in my mind that what she does for that football club adds a lot of value, from what I understand. Is she my cup of tea on a personal level? No, she's not. Does she genuinely love and care about West Ham as a football club? No, I don't think she does. I think she's there to do a job, and I think she does a good job. And that's Karen Brady, basically. I think she fucking pisses a lot of West Ham fans off, understandably, by going in the Sun column and saying what she says. Notably, praising Tottenham left, right and centre gets on my fucking tits, personally. I don't know how she's even allowed to do that without really understanding the rivalry that West Ham and Tottenham have got. I think whether that's deliberate or not, I don't know. The recruitment element is an interesting one, because I think if we were still at the Boleyn, sort of treading water with ambition, I think that we should definitely adopt that philosophy. Southampton are another club that have done that incredibly well, by the way. And I think that is still their strategy now, to find your Virgil van Dijks or your Manes or your Gareth Bales or your Theo Walcotts, whether they come up through the academy or whether they're sourced overseas. They've done that very, very well, Southampton. So, their recruitment is, I suppose, the poster boy of what you would like West Ham to do. And yeah, definitely, I think that's a philosophy that could and should work. The fact that it kind of has, in some respects, with Lanzini and Balbuena and Diop and some other names in the past that I hadn't heard of that we signed that have been a success of West Ham, shows that we've had some success in that area. But just how much of a godsend Azilius has been since he's come on his very big salary, by the way, for doing what he does, I don't know. But, going back to what I was saying in terms of, do I agree with that's what we should do? I mean, I think there's always an element of that should be what any football club should do, to discover a diamond in the rough, and then turning a £10 million player into a £78 million player. Whether that's a case of having that player and keeping him and playing him or sending him on, we should still be hopefully in that luxurious position enough to have that player. Declan is a prime example, even though he come up through the academy. But I don't know. I mean, I still think it's a grey area that we've left the bowling ground and we have billionaire owners but can't go out and spend 200, 300 million pounds. Now, either I'm stupid on this subject or completely naive. Probably a little bit of a combination of the two, if I'm honest. Because I've had FFP explained to me 4 or 5 times now, and I don't understand it.
Well, just to jump in here, we had I know you're on holiday. We had a guy on earlier who's an expert in football finance. He doesn't support West Ham. He explained FFP down to a T. So when you're back from your holiday, I'll send you the link and the time. And just listen. It's about a 5-minute answer. He explains it very.
So do you understand it?
Yeah.
And do you understand why West Ham can't spend that money every season?
Yeah.
So do you agree with it?
Do I agree with what? Not spending money?
Yeah, because we can't.
I don't think our board can spend it even without FFP, because I don't think they're rich enough. I know Sullivan's worth £1 billion, but it doesn't mean he's got £1 billion sitting in his bank account, does it? It's two completely different things.
So a lot of it's made up of assets, etc., that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't work on personal wealth either, does it? Doesn't it work on sort of revenue and sponsorship and that kind of stuff. It's a different category. It's my broken understanding of as to how it works. But, but I know you ain't going to want to cover content that's already been covered, so I get that. But so in your mind, then, on the back of that conversation you've already had tonight, you know, what would you expect West Ham to spend every season as it stands?
50 million.
Really?
Yeah, I would say 50 million in the summer, roughly. About 50 million. I think. I think that's slightly above average. I'd say about what's the average of the Premier League net spend, 30, 40 million. So I'd say slightly above that, 50 million maybe. But like I said, I don't measure it. I don't measure the transfer window by net spend. You know, I think we had a good January transfer window. We didn't buy anyone. Well, we signed Nasri on a free, but the reason it was good is because we didn't sell anyone. And I think
that's right.
And I think that's a good window because this squad didn't get disrupted. Of course, I would have liked to have seen us sign someone. It's because as a football fan, it's what you want to see. You want to see new faces and new talent at the club, etc. But we've got to be realistic sometimes. And I think the best Sullivan and goal can do for West Ham is take us into seventh, if you like. Maybe get a bit lucky and get into the top six. But there's no shame in finishing seventh in the Premier League. Being the seventh best football club in England is not a bad thing. You're the seventh best out of however many football clubs there are. There are 92 league clubs plus whatever else. So being seventh is not necessarily a bad thing. For me, it's all about cups, and you can compete in the cup whenever you want, really. You could finish 14th and compete in the cup. I would measure West Ham's success in a season by cup runs rather than league position. I know you're different because I remember there was an FA Cup top four debate going on a few years ago. But for me, it's the cups. You know, you just have to look at the kit launch that they did yesterday with that video with the players and stuff. How can you not watch that and not get goosebumps about the FA Cup final? You know, for me, it's all about cup finals. I would, if you said to me 14th in a cup final or 7th in the league, I would take 14th in the cup final every time, and you can get there without spending any money because we've already got a squad capable of competing for the cup final. It's all about priorities of the manager, not about how much money we're going to spend on X, Y, and Z and stuff. But
it's true. No, I mean, listen, you cannot underestimate a cup. I mean, I would genuinely take one place above relegation and win the FA Cup. To be honest, I'd arguably finish one place above relegation and win the League Cup.
Yeah.
Because I've never won a major trophy, or I've never seen West Ham win a major trophy in my lifetime. I'm 35 years of age, and that's what you remember. You don't remember finishing 9th 7 years ago, or 12th, 15th. You remember the cup wins. You remember the good days out and the memorable moments, and that's what it's all about in football. And that's why Wimbledon hurt, especially because not only did we go out to a shit team away, conceding 4 goals, playing a load of crap. If we'd have won that game, with the exception of, I think it was Man City, was it, that won that competition, it'd have been wide open. We'd have been in the mix with Swansea and Watford, whoever else it was. There was no more big boys left. So that's the big disappointment for me. I don't know. It's a difficult one. But that FFP conversation you had earlier on was interesting. I'll have to have a look at that.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Help me understand that better.
We'll have to start wrapping this up there because the stream's going to end in about 90 seconds or something. But I just want to say we'll do another video soon because it's good to just debate with you because me and you are quite different without swearing at each other. It's a rare thing in social media these days, isn't it? I always feel like we need to throw a few insults in just to fit in with the these days. But listen, thank you very much for coming on, especially considering you're on your family holiday, like extra time employee.
No, it's no problem.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. And enjoy the rest of your holiday. Keep up the good work, and I'll speak to you very soon, Dave. Thank you very much.
Mate, keep up the good work yourself. All for a good cause. God bless you, mate.
You can now purchase a season ticket for the Hammers Chat boats for the 2019-20 season. Prices start from £60 and includes entry to all boats events that we may have, including cup games and friendlies at the London Stadium next season. Please get in touch via email at hammerschat@gmail.com or via Twitter, hammers_chat. All details are in the description below. Get in touch and we'll see you next season.